In today's video, we'll be covering the most asked interview questions for Appian developers, along with some simple and effective answers that will help you prepare and succeed in your interview. Let's dive right in. Question 1. How do you create a process model? A process model is created using the process modeler. I start by defining the business process, breaking it down into individual tasks. Using the drag-and-drop interface, I add nodes like user tasks, script tasks, and integrations. Then I configure the flow and logic by adding gateways like and XOR depending on the business requirements. I also set up process variables to store data as the process moves through each step. Question 2. How do you manage integrations in Appian? I manage integrations in Appian using integration objects. Appian provides easy-to-use tools for REST and SOAP APIs, and I've used them to connect Appian applications with external systems like databases and third-party services. I configure the API endpoints, map the required fields, and use authentication methods like OAuth when needed. I always test integrations thoroughly to ensure the data flows correctly. Question 3. What are CDTs, and how do you use them in Appian? CDTs are data structures in Appian that define how data is stored. I use them to map external data into Appian applications, allowing us to work with structured data and process models and interfaces. CDTs are great for building scalable applications because they help keep the data organized and easily accessible. I ensure that CDTs are updated as requirements evolve. Question 4. Can you explain gateways in Appian process models? Gateways in Appian are used to control the flow of processes. There are different types, like in gateways, which allow multiple tasks to run in parallel, and XOR gateways, which choose one path based on conditions. For example, I use XOR gateways when I need to route the process based on user input, and gateways when tasks can run simultaneously. It helps make processes more efficient and dynamic. Question 5. What is the difference between synchronous and asynchronous processes in Appian? A synchronous process requires the user to wait for the task to complete before proceeding to the next step. It's used when immediate feedback is needed. An asynchronous process, on the other hand, runs in the background, allowing the user to continue working without waiting for the task to finish. I use asynchronous processes when tasks like sending notifications or long-running jobs don't need the user to wait. Question 6. How do you optimize performance in Appian? I optimize performance in Appian by ensuring that data queries are efficient, fetching only the required data. I also use caching where appropriate to reduce database calls and ensure the app runs smoothly. Additionally, I optimize process models by removing unnecessary tasks and keeping expressions simple. I regularly monitor performance metrics using Appian's built-in tools to identify and fix bottlenecks. Question 7. How do you handle security in Appian applications? I handle security in Appian by applying role-based access control to restrict user access to only what they need. I configure security settings on individual objects like process models, records, and interfaces. I also use encryption for sensitive data, both in transit and at rest, and ensure that the app follows best practices for authentication. Question 8. How do you work in an agile environment? I've been working in agile environments for 1 year, where I participate in sprint planning, daily stand-ups, and sprint reviews. I collaborate closely with business analysts to break down user stories and estimate effort. Throughout the sprint, I ensure that we are building the right features by communicating regularly with the team and stakeholders. Question 9. How do you handle errors in Appian process models? In Appian process models, I handle errors using exception flows and error events. For example, if an integration fails or a specific node doesn't execute properly, I design the process to either retry the task or send an alert to the appropriate user or team. I also use Appian's error logs and monitoring tools to identify and troubleshoot issues in real time. This ensures that the process keeps running smoothly, even when errors occur. Question 10. What are some best practices when designing Appian interfaces? When designing Appian interfaces, I follow best practices like keeping the UI simple and intuitive, breaking down complex data into manageable sections, and ensuring consistency by reusing components. I also make sure to optimize performance by limiting unnecessary data loads and using dynamic grids and cards to display data. Finally, I always design interfaces to be responsive, ensuring they work well on both desktop and mobile devices. Question 11. How do you manage task assignment in Appian process models? In Appian, task assignment is managed using the Assignment tab within the User Input Task node in a process model. You can assign tasks to individuals, groups, or even dynamically based on process variables. For example, I often use expression rules to dynamically assign tasks to users based on their role or availability. This ensures that tasks are directed to the right people at the right time, improving efficiency and responsiveness. Question 12. What is the difference between an entity-backed record and a service-backed record in Appian? An entity-backed record is connected directly to a database entity, like a table, allowing Appian to automatically manage the data retrieval and updates. It's easier to configure and is typically used when working with structured data from a database that a service-backed record, on the other hand, pulls data from external services or APIs, which requires more configuration but provides more flexibility. I choose service-backed records when data comes from external systems that aren't stored in a database, allowing the app to pull in real-time data. Question 13. How do you implement data validation in Appian interfaces? In Appian, I implement data validation within interfaces by using validation expressions and SAIL components. For example, when creating a form, I can add validation logic to fields using the validations parameter. This allows me to ensure that the data entered by users meets specific criteria before it can be submitted. I can display error messages directly on the form if the data is invalid. Additionally, I often use expression rules to centralize validation logic, making it reusable across multiple interfaces. That's it for today's video. I hope these questions and answers help you feel more prepared for your Appian Developer interview. Remember, practice is key, so make sure you go over these questions a few times before your interview. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. And feel free to leave any questions you have in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your interview.